Okay, you are here for week 1, day 3 in grammar. The first section is capitalization. Today for capitalization, we are looking at how you capitalize centuries when you have that in your writing. Most authorities believe that the number and the century is not capitalized. However, some perceive it as a proper noun. So what you need to do is check with your teacher. So this year for history, you have Mrs. Konzenbach. So if you are doing any writing for her, find out how she wants you to denote if you're writing out 18th century or 16th century. Does she want that capitalized or not? They have an example for you of what it would look like if it is capitalized and if it isn't. I think you're all pretty familiar with what capital letters look like, so we don't need to practice that too much more. The sample sentence was Louis C. Tiffany of the 20th century famous for his glass? Mom. All right, so you can see here what things need to be capitalized. For this example, I went ahead and capitalized 20th century. And then as a review from yesterday, why is mom capitalized? Okay, could you say, was Louis C. Tiffany of the 20th century famous for his glass? Ellie. Well, yeah, you could, but if you were one of my kids, you'd get in trouble for calling me Ellie and not mom. But for capitalization purposes, you can see that the M in mom is capitalized. All right, next section, punctuation, quick review. If you're handwriting out and you come across a book title, you're going to underline it. If you're typing it, you italicize it. Obviously on the homework sheet, you're not typing. So you're going to look at this sentence. His sister has already read the book entitled Hattie Big Sky. So you're going to underline Hattie Big Sky. That's the title. Okay, coming now down to parts of speech. Today we're going to be talking about verbs, a little bit more about what a regular verb is and what an irregular verb is. So a regular verb is just like a regular old guy, you know. He does what he's supposed to do. He follows all the rules. So this particular day we are going to be looking at how you form past tense and past participle forms for regular verbs first. So for a regular verb, if it is something like to ask, the past tense, you just add ed to it. Ask becomes asked. And then the past participle, which we'll be talking more about later, would become had asked. All right? Another regular old verb would be like to play. What's the past tense of play? Played. What's the past participle? Had played. Regular verbs. But then you have the irregular verbs. Those are the verbs that don't do what you think they're supposed to do. All right? So what happens is in a past tense, you don't just add ed to an irregular verb because it doesn't sound right and it's just not following the rules. So the infinitive of the verb to break in its past tense would be broke. You don't say braked. I braked my favorite necklace. You say, I broke my favorite necklace. And then the past participle is had broken. So it's even a little bit more different yet than just the plain old past tense. All right. I can give you a few more examples of irregular verbs going into the past tense and the past participle. Ride in the past tense is rode, and as a past participle you would say had ridden. The infinitive to say in the past tense is said, in the past participle is had said. Another example would be the verb to see. In the past tense you would say saw, and in the past participle you would say had seen. We'll be going over this more over the course of the year, but I have sheets. If you're interested in this, I have handouts I can give you that have present tense and past tense and present participles and past participles and more participles than you could have in your worst nightmare. But I can give them to you, so if you want them, let me know and I'll bring them to class. So what they want you to do here is write RV if what you've got is a plain old regular verb, or IV if it's an irregular verb. All right, so let's look at the verb to claim. In the past tense, how do you put to claim in the past tense? Today I claim, yesterday I claimed. That adds ed. that makes it just a regular verb. So you're going to put RV in front of to claim. Let's look at to find. What's the past tense of find? Today I find, yesterday I found. We didn't say finded, we said found. So that makes it an irregular verb. So to find is an irregular verb, IV. To do, all right? Today I do, yesterday I did. I don't doed, I did, all right? Because you didn't just take do and add an ed to it, instead you changed it to did, that makes it an IV or an irregular verb. The last sample is to cry. When you put cry in the past tense, you say cried, all right? That's a regular verb. So to cry is an RV. If you have questions about this, again, you can ask me in class or throw me an email. The next thing that we're looking at under parts of speech are phrases and clause. A phrase is composed of two or more words but lacks a subject and a verb. Stood silently, sat carefully, smiled obnoxiously. All right? Those are all simple phrases. A clause contains a subject and a verb. Their example is, the family stayed at a motel. The dog slept on the floor. The child ate a cookie. All right, those would be all clauses. So they're going to give you two examples. A, believing the worst. Is that a phrase? P for phrase, not F. P, if it's a phrase, believing the worst. There really isn't a subject or a verb with that, is there? Okay, so it's a P, it's a phrase. The next example is gulls flew overhead. Gulls flew overhead. Is that a phrase or a clause? Do we have a subject and a verb? Well, the subject would be gulls, and what were the gulls doing? Flying, or they flew. Gulls flew, subject, verb, therefore that's a C for clause. Last, you have the sentence combining. I don't help you with that. Read the three sentences, combine it into one. That's not a run-on. Write it down and I'll check it for you. Thanks so much. Have a great rest of your day.